You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith.
Greetings, young Squire Sprouts. Today is the 24th day in the 9th month in the year of our Lord 2022. My name is Sir Roland Paterlot, and you're listening to Saturdays with Sir Roland on Catholic Sprouts, where every Saturday we discuss the art of dragon slaying. Today, my young guildlings, is my last podcast in the month of September. It's also, I'm sorry to say, my last podcast on the 10 Commandments. What's that? You thought I was going to say it was my last podcast ever? No, they haven't fired me yet, so I'm going to keep going because I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about next. But first, we must finish our series on the 10 Commandments. Now, I know what you're thinking. Sir Roland, we're only on the 9th commandment. We still have 2 more to go. Well, it just so happens that the 9th and 10 commandments revolve around the same dragon. Sir Wyvern Pugilist calls the dragon avarice, which is also what the ancient church fathers named the deadly sin of greed. The 9th commandment says, "Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's spouse." And the 10th commandment says, "Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods." The word covet means to have a strong desire to possess something or someone. Basically, it means we're jealous because we want what other people have. What's that you said? Your neighbors are really old like me and you don't really want any of their stuff anyway? Well, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but the word neighbor applies to every person you meet here, not just your next door neighbor. Now, think about all the dragons we've been discussing in previous episodes just for a minute. Can you see how all the dragons work together? Here's an example of the ripple effect of dragons. First off, avarice comes along and tempts us to have an unhealthy desire for what doesn't belong to us, which is breaking the 9th and 10th commandments. Then, usurping tempts us to steal other people's stuff, which is breaking the 7th commandment. Or maybe even other people's spouse if we're married, which is breaking the 6th commandment. Then we get into a deep trouble and Bilgewater comes along and tells us to lie about it, which is breaking the 8th commandment. Good grief, these dragons are nasty, and all of them are offspring of that original dragon, Lucifer, or Satan. Remember, what did he do? He lied to Adam and Eve and told them that to be happy, they needed to possess that forbidden fruit. So Adam and Eve coveted the fruit, which didn't belong to them, and then they reached out and they stole it. Perhaps you've heard the phrase, "The grass is always greener on the other side." Well, it basically means that dragons can get us into a never-ending cycle of wishing we had more stuff or other people's stuff because we think everybody else's stuff looks more fun than our stuff. Until, of course, we get their stuff, and then we don't want it anymore because it doesn't satisfy us like we thought it would. So then we look for somebody else's stuff. I hope that made sense. Here's the bottom line. Dragons are liars. Stuff doesn't make you happy, and there's not enough stuff in the world to make you happy, and other people's stuff isn't going to make you happy. God alone can satisfy the deepest longing in your heart. Do you want to know how to slay avarice? Be generous. We find true happiness not by just getting stuff all the time, but by giving. Be grateful for the many gifts you have, and then learn to share them with others. Note to parents, the sharing only applies to your stuff, not to your spouse, or your kids for that matter. No giving them away to the neighbors, no matter how much they drive you crazy. Now, I'd like to recite a poem or a reflection for you that I heard many years ago by a man named Bruce Barton that I think sums up this whole idea very well. It's called The 2 C's. I like this reflection so much that I memorized it. Whenever avarice comes knocking on my door trying to sell me more stuff, I just recite this in my head. It goes like this. There are 2 seas in Palestine. One is fresh and fish are in it. Splashes of green adorn its banks. Trees spread their branches over it and stretch out their thirsty roots to sip its healing waters. Along the shores the children play, as children played when he was there. He loved it. He could look across its silver surface when he spoke his parables, and on rolling plains not far away, he fed 5,000 people. The river Jordan is what makes this sea with sparkling water from the hills. So it laughs in the sunshine, and men build their houses near it, and birds their nest, and every kind of life is happier because it is there. But the river Jordan flows on south into another sea. Here, there's no splash of fish, no fluttering of leaf, no song of birds, no children's laughter. Travelers choose another route unless on urgent business. The air hangs heavy above its water, and neither man nor beast nor fowl will drink from it. What makes the mighty difference in these two neighbor seas? Not the river Jordan. It empties the same good water into both of them. Not the soil in which they lie, and not the country that surrounds them. This is the difference. The Sea of Galilee receives but does not keep the Jordan. For every drop that flows in, another drop flows out. The giving and receiving go on in equal measure. The other sea is shrewder, hoarding its income jealously. It will not be tempted into any generous impulse. Every drop it gets, it keeps. The Sea of Galilee gives and lives. The other sea gives nothing. It is named the dead. There are two kinds of people in the world, and there are two seas in Palestine. Which type of person do you want to be? Greedy, like avarice, or generous, like Jesus, and St. Nicholas, and St. Francis, and all the saints? So this week, for your examination of conscience, ask the following questions to see if avarice has influenced you in any way. Have I been grateful for what I have, or greedy to what others have? Have I been generous with my time and possessions, or have I been stingy? Have I given away what I do not need? And so ends our series on the 10 Commandments. Do you know what I'm going to talk about in the coming weeks? Of course you don't, because I haven't told you yet. I haven't told anybody yet, not even my squire. It's a surprise. I can't tell you now because I don't want the dragons to get wind of it. They're going to be hopping mad because it's going to blow their cover, but that's all I can say for now. If you want to learn more, come back next week, and the week after that, and the week after that. Actually, you should listen to Catholic Sprouts every day, because the Become a Saint Kids Club is super awesome. I joined, even though I'm not a kid. In fact, I'm from the Middle Ages, which is quite a few years ago. Don't tell the Catholic Sprouts lady. I don't want to get kicked out of the club or fired from my Saturday post. So until next week, I'll leave you under the protection of St. Michael the Great Archangel, St. Joseph the Terror of Dragons, and Mary, Queen of the Angels, Our Lady of Grace, and the woman whose seed crushed the head of the dragon.
That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God created you to be.
Hey parents and kids, this week's resource for our Dragon Slayers Training Guild is a free downloadable coloring page of the dragon Avarice from Sir Wyvern Pugilist's Dragon Slayers Manual. I'll also send you a copy of The Two Seas Reflection by Bruce Barton. If you're not yet a member of our Dragon Slayers Training Guild, just go to extraordinarymission.com/dragonslayers. And remember, listen to Catholic Sprouts every day, including Saturdays with Sir Roland.
This show is a production of the Spoke Street Media Podcast Network. For more great podcasts, visit spokestreet.com.